Hey everyone, I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Fuego here.
And this is your Horror Show News Editorial Edition, found right here every Friday on the Horror Show channel, which is, of course, where you're going to see us talk about all of today's news stories that we delivered back over at youtube.com/thekingsofhorror. You can see us deliver the news stories in a much more usual,
slightly
newsy,
proper fashion.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're the late night news kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are into that. Some people just want to hear us rail on some of these news stories, which is where we get a little bit relaxed, get a little bit looser, and then you guys can see the stories pop up over here on my right. And you can follow along with what we're going to talk about. Because first, Fuego, I want to know, what do you think about Todd McFarlane possibly janking everyone's chain again with this Spawn movie?
He seems to just bring this up every couple of years where he's like, I've got this script, man, and it's so good. And, you know, it's over a 200-page script. And you're just like, wait a minute, how is that going to translate to a film when it's supposed to be a page a minute, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard it's very bloated. But I am intrigued by the fact that I think at one point he was saying he was going to follow Sam and Twitch a little bit more so. And it was going to have,
Not
like,
anymore,
Spawn just, like, hanging in the shadows as a specter.
I don't think
Maybe
it's going to be Sam and Twitch. No, I don't think it's... I mean, Sam and Twitch will be in it, but I think it's going to be... Spawn is going to be sort of the Punisher kind of guy in the background. Like, it's not going to follow him. He's going to be the Punisher in the sense that he's going to be the spiritual Punisher of people, or the Spectre, like from DC Comics, where I think what happened was, quite frankly,
I was going to say, sorry to interrupt, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a Spawn book that you told me about, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's because that is from the 90s as well.
Involved,
it was called Spawn the Undead. No, he was directly involved, but he was more of a secondary character. It was always, each issue, it was 9 issues long, and every issue focused on a different character of some kind that made some sort of decision that Spawn had to step in on at some point, because at the time he was not fighting for heaven or hell. He was trying to keep the balance. So if someone tried to kill themselves and then an angel stepped in to stop them, Spawn would then step in and convince them to go ahead and kill themselves, because he's not going to let heaven upset the balance. He's not going to let hell upset the balance. It was really interesting, but frankly what I think this is more a reaction to is the short film that a fan made a few years back.
Good.
That only had Spawn show up at the very end as sort of a boogeyman, where he is there to punish the person that's doing bad. Again, a la the Spectre from DC Comics.
I think we've actually talked about that on this program. But yeah, sometime on this show, we have discussed this previously. I mean, just that added aspect and whatnot. But I have to ask you, Puppet Master is a series that I adored as a kid, and after the 5th film, I think that they've really just kind of tanked, in my opinion. However, there was a Indiegogo crowdfunding, which went down for this new film, the 11th in the series. They're cranking it to 11, man. And, Axis of Evil sucked, so...
The last 2 sucked. Both the Nazi
last 5 or
ones
6
were awful,
sucked. I mean, like I said, they haven't been good since the 5th one, when they had the crazy golems coming in, or whatever the hell those guys were, and they turned the puppets good, which, mixed feelings about that. Do you have any hope for this?
Not at all.
For this new entry?
No, don't.
This man's keeping it brief.
I'll watch it, but they went off the rails in that series. Yeah, I mean, the puppets were meant to be scary. They were killing people, and suddenly they're the good guys, and it's like, I just don't.
Worst change that they made, in my opinion.
It doesn't.
Because the second film is so damn good.
It just makes it less interesting. It's like, so the good puppets are against bad puppets, and it's not the point anymore.
Yeah, well, this is going back to that universe where in the 3rd film they're like, well, they'll still kill people, but they're killing Nazis. And how many times on this news show do we talk about killing Nazis, for God's sake?
Nazis are forever the biggest bad they can come up with. And to go back to the Nazi well 3 different times in a row, it's like, get out of it already. Jeez, who cares?
However, they have $90,000.
The kids love Nazis. What? No, they don't.
Nazis.
No.
They don't even know what Nazis are at this point, man.
Enough Nazi stuff.
Yeah, but with $90,000 of fan money from that Indiegogo, I mean, they're saying the effects are going to be better to a fully funded movie.
Listen, $90,000 doesn't pay for much effects-wise. No. I got to be perfectly honest.
We're talking a couple million.
That is not going to help that much.
Yeah. No.
So it just, the whole idea seems silly, and it seems like just a vanity project for Charles Band once again, because he's asking for fans for money to help augment a finished film that's a fully funded film. No, you don't do that. Why would you try and fleece your fans when the movie is already fully funded. What, to augment it? So that means the movie isn't fully funded because the effects aren't where you want them to be.
Yeah, perhaps it was just a money-making project for all the people who get to be killed by Blade, who bought those certain perks through the Indiegogo. I don't know, man. But yeah, perhaps it is a lost cause. That is a franchise that died many years ago for me. But as far as franchises go, next story, what do you got, man?
Yeah, it's not so much a franchise so much as a new movie in the belt of Eli Craig, who created Tucker and Dale vs. Evil a couple of years ago. He's doing one called Little Evil, which Adam Scott has signed on to, along with Evangeline Lilly, who is a very good actress as well.
Very lovely.
And basically, they play a newlywed couple that find out that her 6-year-old son just might be the apocalypse, the Antichrist. So that in itself seems like it could be a good fertile ground for comedy.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's going to be the comedic The Omen or Damien type thing, I'm assuming that's what they're going to go for. If Adam Scott is involved, he played it pretty straight in Krampus, which I was kind of surprised by. But yeah, I mean, I'm at least intrigued based on the fact that director of Tucker vs. Evil did a hell of a job with that film, adapting that graphic novel so good. I know it's his favorite comedic horror film ever, right?
Yeah, it's definitely the top one for me. So I'm excited to see what we can get out of Little Evil for sure.
Well, I mean, Netflix has been doing fantastic work. They have the new Oz Perkins film, which is kind of funny because his first film still has yet to see the light of day, which was originally called February. Blackcoat's Daughter now. It still hasn't come out, but yeah, fantastic director, so be sure to check out his film. I know it went up on September 10th, but yeah, man, Netflix is the new kind of like fertile ground for creativity for people in the realm of genre work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what they can pull out with this one and see what kind of fun thrills we can get from Adam Scott and Evangeline Lilly.
Yeah, indeed. So next up we have Vampire Hunter D. So it was originally a novel, translated into English. There was also mangas, there was animes, I think video games. I mean, very, very similar to another property I love, Berserk. It's been soaked up by the American audiences, myself included, and there is a new comic by Stranger Comics, I believe. I'm not even familiar with the brand, but they're essentially taking a short story that the writer did for a Japanese, fan fest of some sort for the actual property, and they're expanding it into a comic series. I love Vampire Hunter D. Both of the animated films. I think you've seen both of them, right?
Nope, haven't seen either one.
Either of them? Oh, my lord. And this guy rails on me constantly for having not seen things, huh?
Oh, please. Vampire Hunter D is as big as some of the stuff you haven't seen.
It's very obscure, I know. He has me there. But, yeah, I love the Dhampir aspect. I love the fact that he is a half-person, half-vampire, and he's out killing his own kind. He's very similar to Blade in that aspect, which is pretty dope. And he's got the weird, talking hand and stuff. But the artwork looks beautiful in this. I am very excited to just see what this lost story is, because they have almost 50 novels that have been written, and then there's the adaptations in the comics and films and stuff like that. So hey, it is a proven property that I have faith could be pretty dope. So
hopefully so. I mean, I've always liked the idea of it. I just haven't sat down to actually watch the animes. But the whole half human, half vampire fighting other vampires is always interesting. It is very obviously shades of Blade, which has been around for a while in Marvel Comics, so I don't know who would have come first, but it doesn't really matter. I'd still be interested to check it out.
Yeah, well, I'm going to make you check it out. I'm going to make him check out both of those films because, oh man, they are so good. The first and the third novel is what they have adapted so far, at least, but there's also a CGI, it's called Resurrection. It's a series that I'm not sure if it's going to be adapting previous stories, continuing things on, what may be going down, but I'm stoked for that too. So what is your final story?
The final one for me is, of course, the fact that they're making a new Re-Animator movie called Re-Animator Evolution, but it has absolutely zilch to do with the original series that we've gotten starring Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, he was in 3 of them, right?
He was in 3 of them, and this one is apparently going to be a fresh adaptation of the original H.P. Lovecraft story that Stuart Gordon's Re-Animator was originally based on. So I'm interested to see what that means. They said it's going to be darker, scarier, and sort of more in line with what the original text was.
Yeah, I know they took some liberties, but beyond that, I haven't read the original short story. I know it's terrible, and because of the fact that I love Stephen King, and HP basically, inspired everything that King does. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely interested in seeing what this new version could be, because I was never a terribly huge fan of the old ones. I thought they were okay, but
first one was very good.
It just seemed like, silly Frankenstein, like the Return of the Living Dead of Frankenstein movies.
They got sillier in the fact that they brought in the bride aspect.
That's literally what I'm saying. They went with Frankenstein, like it was, and so that's all it was, and it just was like, okay. Frankenstein never really got my goat going, so.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I know there's some people that are screaming blasphemy about the fact that they're like, oh, they're not continuing things, they're just doing a complete reimagination, but that's like common talk in the industry now, where they're like, oh, you're not going with the way I think you should take the series, and I'm upset, but hey, give it a chance at least. I certainly will, and from there, speaking of giving things a chance, we have the fifth and final, The Ravager. Yes, Phantasm Ravager. We've been talking about this film for over a year now, and waiting to see it for well over a year now. What the hell happened, man?
I mean, it's going to have to knock our socks off to make it worth this wait.
It looks pretty damn good.
The trailer does look better, but nonetheless, it's still, I'm just hoping it's not too little too late.
Yeah, I know you weren't over the moon for any of the previous films, really. So,
they were okay, it's just they've never been on my favorites of horror movies.
I love that series, man, especially the second film where it got big and bold and violent and crazy. Pretty much turned into an action movie at that point. And this new trailer looks to me like it's going to be a little more action-centric, but maybe that's just me, being hopeful. So
who the hell knows? The trailer, for sure, yeah.
They have those huge orbs and stuff. I mean, the balls. This guy's got balls. I don't know. I'm supremely excited for it. Rest in peace, obviously, to Mr. Angus Scrim, who we did not get to see last year at the Kentucky Fear Fest because of the fact that his health was waning, and so for this to be the final entry, I think it's kind of befitting.
Yeah, and it was nice because while we were at Scarefest, we got to hear him actually be part of the panel via telephone, so both you and I think, got to ask a question that got answered by him on the phone, so in that sense, it's going to be a special viewing for that reason, and possibly that reason alone, but hopefully not that reason alone.
Yeah, exactly. But we have returning guys like Reggie, Jody, Michael. They're all coming back, and including the lady whose name eludes me, who was in the original film. We got to talk at Scarefest as well with, and she was a total delight. You can see all of that coverage here on the Horror Show channel. So
eventually,
yes, at some point. So, but you can definitely see the Reggie Bannister interview.
Yes, absolutely. That is available right now. So go and check it out. But I think that's pretty much going to wrap up our editorials for this week's Horror Show news. And remember, if you want to see us do this, we're here every Friday talking about the week's horror stories. And if you want to see us deliver it in a more nightly news fashion, head over to youtube.com/thekings-of-horror to see us do it in a bit more of a professional way, but
only slightly.
Exactly. But for now, thanks very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, I've been Jaime Fuego.
And until next time, remember, stay scared.